Most of the advice you will hear about finding meaning is hopelessly vague. Follow your passion, they say. Find your purpose. Do what you love. The problem with this kind of guidance is that it collapses the moment life becomes difficult. What if you cannot follow your passion because you have a family to feed? What if your purpose is unclear, or lost, or has been taken away by circumstances? What if you are bedridden and cannot do anything at all? Viktor Frankl was not interested in advice that only worked when conditions were favorable. He wanted a theory of meaning that would hold up in a concentration camp, in a hospital bed, in the darkest hours of a human life. So he built one. Frankl identified 3 paths through which any human being can discover meaning in any situation. He called them creative values, experiential values, and attitudinal values. Each is a door, and Frankl insisted that at least one of these doors is always open, no matter how much life has been stripped from you. The first path is creative. This is meaning through what you give to the world, through the work of your hands and mind. Writing a book, raising a child, building a business, repairing a roof, teaching a class, caring for a patient, cooking a meal. Anything that leaves the world slightly more ordered or more alive than you found it counts as a creative value. Notice how broad this is. Frankl was not speaking only of art or great achievement. The mother who patiently teaches a child to read is creating meaning through the same door as the novelist. What matters is not the scale but the offering. The creative path is often the first one people recognize because modern culture teaches us to identify ourselves with what we do. It is the path of production, of contribution, of visible output. It works beautifully when life cooperates. But it has a weakness. When you cannot work, when illness stops you, when retirement arrives, when circumstances close down the options, the creative path can narrow to almost nothing. This is why Frankl insisted it was not the only path. The second path is experiential. This is meaning through what you receive from the world. Beauty, love, truth, wonder. Watching the sun come up over a landscape. Listening to a piece of music that opens something in you. Looking into the face of a person you love and seeing them, actually seeing them, for the first time in years. Frankl placed love at the center of this path. To love another person, he said, is to see their essential uniqueness, to know what they can become, and to help them become it. The experiential path does not require action in the outer sense. It requires presence. It requires that you are actually there for what is happening to you, not lost in your phone or your worries or your planning for tomorrow. This is why it so often opens up precisely when the creative path is closing. Many people discover the experiential path only after illness, retirement, or loss has forced them to sit still. They suddenly notice the morning light falling across the kitchen table, and they realize they have been walking past it for 40 years. Then there is the third path, and this is where Frankl's psychology separates itself from every other theory of meaning. The third path is attitudinal. This is meaning through the stance you take toward a fate you cannot change. It applies precisely when the first 2 paths have closed. When you can no longer act, and you can no longer even receive, you can still choose how you face what is happening to you. The attitudinal path is the meaning you create in the face of unavoidable suffering. This is the path Frankl discovered in the camps, and it is the one he considered the most important of all, because it is the last one to close. Even a person who has lost everything, including their health, including their future, including the people they loved, still has one freedom remaining. They can choose their attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is not a small consolation, and Frankl resisted any attempt to turn it into 1. He was not saying that suffering is good, or that you should pretend to be fine, or that a positive attitude fixes tragedy. He was saying something more precise. The way you endure what cannot be avoided is itself a meaningful act, visible to yourself and to those around you, and it matters. The dying person who faces their last weeks with dignity has accomplished something as real as any creative work. The patient who responds to chronic pain without turning cruel has done meaningful labor. Suffering ceases to be mere suffering the moment it finds a meaning, even if that meaning is only the stance you choose to take toward it. Most of us will move through all 3 paths in a lifetime. In youth, the creative path tends to dominate. In middle age, the experiential often opens up. In the final chapter, the attitudinal becomes central. The point is not to choose one. The point is to know all 3 are available, so that when one door closes you do not mistake it for the closing of every door. Subscribe to the Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.